Shabbat Shalom. Hello everybody. Today I decided not to speak to you about Paul as I said I would in the last video, but rather a little bit more about something that's been very close to me, the archaeology of Earth, and how I really got into doing all of these things. And archaeology speaks of something that I would like to explain to you now that has created a lot of confusion and a lot of problems for humanity. Now, these are little rain frogs that we have in Africa, or in the Elephant Coast here, and we've had quite a bit of rain, so they make quite a noise. I hope they don't bug you too much. So, in 286 BC, the Bible was translated into Greek. And that created many problems for humanity. Daniel came up with a prophecy. He said in 2,300 days, which actually are years, which equates from 286 BC to 2014, where all truth will be exposed. So that's a period of 2,300 years. Now, really what happened in 286 BC is they changed, or they translated the Bible from Hebrew to Greek. Now, the Bible really belongs to a specific family, to the Israelites, as you may know. So, if anybody other than the Hebrew or the Israelites translate the Bible, then surely there has to be some kind of connotation, some kind of mistakes or influences that they might want to add, being pagans or whatever the case may be. So this is why Daniel said that all truth will be destroyed. Now there's a long story we describe in our book, and in the book Where to From Here Cognition, that Katerina and I published in 2014, which we claim to be the book that exposed all the truth. And we explained that the whole process, or the whole truth, was lost because of the fact that it wasn't the original family who were involved in the book. And since then it's been a downhill slope. So there's a book called the Codex Vaticana, which is a book that the Vatican claimed to be the absolute truth of the Greek book. Now, what has happened in the last 100 years or so is that humanity have used that specific book to try and get back to the most basic truth. And the problem is that already with that book being distorted truth, they can never get back to a truth which is, I think, a huge problem that humanity faces, and that the intellects don't seem to realize. Now, there's a couple of guys in history who have said to humanity that they can see where there's some problems lying, that they would rather describe it differently. And two such people that came to mind is Westcott and Hort, who tried to point out that there were certain problems, that one of the problems that they found was that the name Jesus was added to Christ, so which is quite a serious addition to have done. And as I've explained to you before, that the name Jesus is really connected to the tribe of Asher, which is described in the book of Numbers 26 verse 44, where it basically states that Jesui was the son of Asher and he was a Baal. And the Jesuits, which I've told you about in the previous episode, that they are basically a crowd that started with a guy called Ignatius Loyola in 1541, who was a cardinal in the Roman Catholic Church, and he really started the Jesuits as a controlling body for how people would perceive the canon. Now, there was a guy who was involved in the ecumenical translation which the world uses today, called Martini, Carlo Mario Martini, who was instrumental, and he was actually a Jesuit who was in control of the body of people who came up with that ecumenical Bible which the world uses today. And his influence was to maintain that the name Jesus had to be added to Christ. And this reiterated their position, which really was to create a spell. Now, the reason why I say that is because words are spelling. And every time you say certain words, you are causing a spell. So the spell that is created is perpetually repeated by Christians whenever they make their statement about Jesus Christ being the one to follow, and Jesus Christ's name is reiterated so many times that the spell empowers the Jesuits and keeps them where they actually don't belong. So one of the problems that came up to me, I said earlier that I started my journey with archaeology, and something that I found very interesting in my journey was that the Sahara Desert is a very, very barren place, but there's some weird things happening there. They found human bodies curled up, and some even one body found inside a tortoise shell, because obviously they were feared, or they had huge fear, and they found whale carcasses in the middle of the desert. There are salt pillars standing in the desert, which means that the sea water was there and evaporated. Now, all of these point to one position in history, and it goes back to about a period of 4000 BC. And that correlates with the story of Noah in the Bible. So what I've really done is I've taken archaeology and I've weighed up the archaeological finds and the history in the Bible, because really whatever archaeology tells us if the Bible was correct, it would really be in the Bible. So I've really gone and had a look at these kind of things from an archaeological point of view, and there are many things that worry me, or that have confused me. And one of the stories is the story of Noah. So Christianity believes that the world is 6,000 years old, which also fits into that time period, and it's been proven beyond a shadow of doubt, which actually I'll put a link below the video, which will take you to a little video that of strange finds in the Sahara Desert that will convince you that what I'm saying could be correct, because the Sahara Desert used to be a wetland, it used to be a waterland. And many of the creatures found there, they found the whale carcasses lying in the middle of the desert, which means the seawater was there, and these human bodies they found, or human carcasses, and other things also of prehistoric animals which were wetland animals. So the whole story doesn't really fit together with what we have today. So there is only one other option. And what really happened is in Noah's time, there was a comet that hit Earth. And in Genesis 7:4, God said that he said to Noah that he was going to destroy everything that he created on Earth. And there is a lot of proof that that was not the case. So, I'm not saying that God is a liar, but I'm saying that we as humanity do not perceive God's messages 100% accurately. I believe we perceive them as we wish to perceive them. When God said to Noah that he was going to destroy everything, and Noah had to translate the message to humanity, then I think maybe Noah made it a bit worse than what it was, or the story of the ark and all the animals going into the ark is not really a logical story. I mean, animals that grow in that thrive in Siberia and cold temperatures wouldn't really be around that neck of the woods, and it would be a long travel for them to get there. And also sea animals, sea creatures, whales, that kind of thing, how were they saved if God was going to destroy everything? So that story needs to be taken with a little pinch of salt, really. So what I'm saying is that what happened is the comet hit Earth, and it hit Earth in the northwest of Africa, and that actually created the desert as we know it today. And all the water that was there was really heated up to the extent where it vaporized and caused it to rain for as long as what it did, 40 days and 40 nights. Which is quite understandable also when the sea spilt on and this comet, because a comet has a core which is solid metal, and these comets burn. They freeze at the back and they burn in the front, or is it vice versa? Never mind. But a part of them is also water. So the water that came into Earth's atmosphere with them is added water that came onto Earth. Now, if you look on Google Earth, you'll see that on West Africa, the comet, as it hit, it's pulled right up until Oman, which has left a trace of everything. And one of the things that is significant about comet strikes on Earth is that it turns all the water into arsenic. So it is described in hieroglyphs and documents or papyrus documents found in Egypt, that it is described that the water went bitter, which is another sign that there was a comet strike. So there's many things that say that, but the fact that God said that he was going to destroy everything and it wasn't really like that can also be proven with the Colburn Bible, where in chapter 5 in the great manuscript, right at the end of the Colburn Bible, chapter 5 describes really the events leading up to the strike, and then chapter 6 describes what one of the pharaohs experienced when he went after the slaves to try and bring them back to Egypt, because everybody was petrified, scared. Everybody just ran and everybody just took their own direction. But the pharaoh never really made it back to Egypt. I believe that the pharaoh joined, Ham, who is Noah's son, ended up in that area in Ethiopia, and I believe he joined the pharaoh, and together they set up camp again. But Ham was responsible for a tribe called the Cushites. Now, the Cushites, it is believed that Moses' wife, Zipporah, was a Cushite, but she was not. And that's another story. But she was not Cushite. She was neither black nor Cushite, because God said that he must leave the Cushites alone. because the Cushites were defiled, they actually ended up being the Ethiopians. But also, Cush's son, Ham's son Cush, had a son who was called Nimrod. And Nimrod created Babylon. So the battle we fight today, the description of the destruction of Babylon in Revelation, is actually the Babylon that was created by Nimrod, who gave you all religion and the process of how to worship the God of religion. So there are many misconceptions in the Bible that one can only really prove or track down by taking everything as a big picture into consideration. So I felt that I just needed to shed some light on that, because from here it is very, from what I've just told you, it's a lot easier for me to explain to you that the influences in the Bible, like for instance Paul, has been added afterwards, and they don't belong there, and we need to make peace with that. By reiterating the name Jesus, we are spelling, and we are keeping the Jesuits in power. We need to change that. That must change in religions, because if religion wants to break clean, if people want to repent, then that is really where they need to start. So I thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and I hope it's been a little bit insightful, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.